Welcome to Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show. This is your host, Queen Summers.
With your host, King Summers.
And we thank you for tuning in tonight because we have a very great show. We're talking unemployment versus employment.
And the reason why we say this is a good topic at this time, and how does it cater to our mission? Has it in the position to be in a current event? That is what always going on. Somebody need a job somewhere in the world, because how the system is set up, work is the way to get shelter, how to take care of your family. That was the system before COVID, and it still seems to be the same system. And we're here to talk about both sides of the table.
That's right.
Unemployment, the employment, and how does this all trickle down to family homelessness, and how we can make a better solution to the new coming of how we going forward.
That's right. So stick around and we'll be back.
Thank you for tuning in to the second season, Transitional Changes Mission. Welcome back to the Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show with your host, King Summers.
And your host, Queen Summers. And we thank you once again for tuning in to tonight's topic. Now, we're talking about unemployment versus employment because we learned over in Italy that they have one of Europe's worst wage gaps between genders, and female unemployment has risen disproportionately during the pandemic. Last December alone, 99,000 women in Italy lost their employment versus only 2,000 men in the same month. That was from figures from the Italian Statistics Office. And Australia is one of the first nations to regain all jobs lost through the pandemic, reflecting a successful early suppression of COVID-19 and a massive fiscal monetary shock that sent the economy roaring back. The South African rand fell on this past Tuesday after data showed that the country's unemployment rate hit a new record high in the first quarter, signaling continued weaknesses in an economy whose woes were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And the general philosophy of some of the Republican politicians in the United States is that some people have warmed up to the idea of long-term joblessness during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they need a jolt to go back to work. That jolt, they say, should be in the form of publicly funded signing bonuses intended to also help short-handed businesses fill empty jobs.
Well, I say that you are right. Globally, COVID did a lot of damage. A lot of business that we have a moment of silence for will not be able to come back through the survival of COVID.
But as you see, King, with Australia, they really set the record, though. They came back.
Oh, yes.
So it's a balance.
Yes, and it's a process. This process is like the joke that you were saying, like it need a boost again. But I want to talk about in-depth comments, messages that Transitional Changes has been hearing before COVID came. Work and wages always been a problem, inflicted with inflation, the cost of rent going up, the cost of food going up. And here in the nation, there is a battle that always been going on since 1970. That's the year that the last wages rose to $7.25. Now, the wages is like what I started off saying, the introduction of the show was about how capitalism works over here in the nation, is that if you work hard, you're able to survive. Basically, right. You are able to get a mansion, tiny home, or apartment, townhome, whatever you can, with the way that you handle your money with discipline within yourself. That have led up to a lot of non-humanity for family, to the point to where Transitional Changes before COVID was hearing families becoming homeless and have a job.
Right.
We are on the board of fighting for higher wages, but there is a concern about mom and pop stores can't afford to pay that $15 an hour. In actuality, I read a story coming from a long-term historic and economist person saying that if the wages went with inflation over the years, the pay for minimum wage would be like in the range of $20 to $22 an hour.
Mm.
Now we are still at 725.
Yeah.
And it's actually jobs that's out here now posting, hiring with all their banners out saying that they're hiring. But when you go into the interview, they offering a waitress $2.15 plus tips. Now here where we live, rent or basically across the nation has skyrocketed. It is beautiful to see a city rejuvenate. To see old buildings get torn down, new developers come in with different type of architects. Houses made out of glass. It's just all kind of beautiful engineering going on, which is welcome to the creativity of the new generation.
And people with jobs are employed. People who are jobless, looking for a job, and available for work are unemployed. The labor force is made up of the employed and the unemployed. People who are neither employed nor unemployed are not in the labor force. Unemployment adversely affects the disposable income of families. It erodes purchasing power, diminishes employee morale, and reduces an economy's output. Underemployment is different from unemployment in that the person is in fact working, just not as much as they like or to the full extent of their abilities, skills, or education. A worker may be considered underemployed if they hold a part-time job instead of a full-time one. It can also occur when a worker is qualified for a more senior position in their field but hold a lower level job. There are 7 integral and interrelated components that make up being resilient: competent, confident, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control. Even for the relatively self-aware and emotionally adept, struggles can take us by surprise. But learning healthy ways to move through adversity, a collection of skills that researchers call resilience, can help us cope better and recover more quickly, or at least start heading in that direction. While resilience won't make your problems go away, it can give you the ability to see past them, find enjoyment in life, and better handle stress. If you aren't as resilient as you like to be, you can develop skills to become more resilient.
Yes, that's understandable to a point to where that's what some people on one side of the table is saying to the people that is not employed, been receiving unemployment for almost a year and a half now. Some of these people been working through the whole pandemic, didn't take a break or nothing. So it's reasonable of a battle that's going on right now or that's fin to happen or as we talk going on right now in our face. Wherever you at financially, that's where you stand in this battle. For instance, if you don't have no savings or can't afford to stay out of work without no savings or no backing to help you not get evicted, not be able to provide for your family, the system is set up to have you forcibly go back to work. Now, COVID stopped everything. It almost made it to somewhat people are saying socialism. That's still a gang on the other side of the table that is saying these people are lazy or they just scared, don't have no excuse now. That is something that needs to be talked about.
Right.
It's a lot of things that through COVID, a lot of people has been aware of or their eyes has been opened up wider, or that they can fight for something or fall for nothing. Just like Queen Summers was stating, there was women discrimination, there was race discrimination in the workforce before COVID.
Right.
And at that time, due to the way that the system is set up over here in the nation, some people had to deal with that. But now, since COVID came,
feel like they have a choice.
Yes.
And they always had a choice. And when stress, adversity, or trauma strike, you still experience anger, grief, pain, but you're able to keep functioning, both physically and psychologically. However, resilience isn't about putting up with something difficult, being static, or figuring it out on your own. In fact, being able to reach out to others for support is a key part of being resilient. So we thank you once again for listening to Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show.
And yes, and you can go in the archive that we just did an awesome show with King Kevin H. And he's a self-made entrepreneur.
Right.
And on that episode, I'm not trying to say the people that is fighting is wanting to be entrepreneurs, their own business. Within that crowd, some people did have the opportunity, sit down, think, come up with some type of creative type of new business that's on the market now.
Yes.
We talked about that within that show, saying that everybody is not built to be an entrepreneur in these days and time. Even Nancy Pelosi got a statement out saying it's bad to say for some of the mom and pops stores that is small companies, they can't afford to pay for $15 an hour, but it's not the employee fault. Now you got a mix of a corporation that been here for hundreds of years, 75 years, making hundreds of millions of dollars. And they still offering $7.25 or $10 an hour, or even $12 an hour at a rental rate of $1,400 to $1,500 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. And you have a family of 4 in that Metro Atlanta city or urban city or small city. Depends on how the cost of living is in each state. But it is always a family that is in need going through their beautiful journey and hit a pothole. And so that's why Transition of Changes has been established for that before COVID, and still going to be here for infinity with the support of the people, because we are here for the families that are homeless through the population that have increased since COVID-19.
That's right. And while everybody can't go back to work, everybody can build or begin to build resilience, because seriously, it can help protect you from various mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. Resilience can also help offset factors that increase the risk of mental health conditions such as being bullied or previous trauma. If you have an existing mental health condition, being resilient can improve your coping ability.
Yes, it can. One thing that's going on now within this battle, if you have not realized who runs the companies, the laborers. When I say laborers, that's what from the head manager calls a person that's on the floor working the assembly line, a person that's working the cashier, a person working washing dishes or unloading a truck. You are called a laborer. A laborer is the low part of that business, but it's the main factor as society is recognizing to see. Now, when you go to McDonald's or Taco Bell, they are closing now. They closing early, saying that due to staff, we can't stay open. Some business can't stay open for 7 days a week or 5 days or 3 days.
But do you think it's wrong?
No, because I looked at during this COVID, it gave a lot of people the time to spend with their family. That's the first thing I would say during this period. That's the greatest memory, that if it is a person that stopped work or was forced to stop work due to COVID and be in the house with their family, you would cherish that in the near future, because that was one of the greatest things out of this. Secondly, this was a time that you was probably meditating in your room or finding different activities to do with your family. Your mind started thinking it and opening your eyes. I was working, making $14. My wife, she working $12 an hour. We both got a job. We living check by check. We're struggling. They are saying they are not going to accept that, knowing that where they worked at, they made a profit of $100 million. Now, profit in the business world means after they pay their bills, after they do their payroll, after they took their losses, everything. That's what, at the end of the day, that the IRS look at of a business, how much profits did you make? And some companies have it public. You can Google how much Walmart made last year in profit. You can go off of their annual profit made in 1 year, or a 5-year scale, or a 10-year scale. And people had the time to Google that. And they're saying, if I'm a part of the team, why is the CEO that's making $500,000 a year, he living in a mansion? Yes, that CEO got a whole thing to do with that business, especially in a huge corporation. They pay is suitable for what they do. But how can you have that pay scale or wages for that one person or a team, and you have your laborers that people are recognizing that's keeping that business running, that's making things happen, and they have to fight for a vacation, or during an emergency they have to fight for a time to get off, paid time off, the treatment while they was working, being overworked, talked to any kind of way, making $12, $13 an hour, and they see another person that's at the top that's walking through the building in a 3-piece suit looking at everybody. Some of them even had escorts and everything. And here you are struggling, living check by check. And even some companies, if you dare to try to talk to the HR about that, they will let you go. So these times was hard, but it is a reckoning that has been strewing for a long time.
And when we come back, we will be talking about some solutions because there are solutions.
Yes, it is. We had a show about that. Being aware. That is very needed in life. Being aware of your surroundings and your environment. And recognize that everything is a process. And we are talking about that process now with unemployment and employment. Man, the battle is in front of us. Which side you're on? How can we solve this? But we finna go to the solving of this with Transition to Changes Mission podcast show. We appreciate you tuning in to the second season. We did 50 shows and we still thank everybody that listened to us.
Thank you.